Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let Loose with Moose. Today I have a very interesting guest with me, right? So she has a really interesting style of writing on Twitter, and on her bio it says mad scientist with a PhD in immunology. So let's welcome State Queen. Hi State Queen, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I'm super happy to have you on as well. So before we begin, right, usually I like to ask people how they got into crypto, right? Before that, let's hear. I'm a bit curious about how you got into crypto with a background in immunology. Like, why
It's
did you
safe to say
transition
that
from that?
I'm a successfully onboarded normie. In my last year of PhD, I learned about a token called IQ for the project Everypedia, which was a surprise for me because it was a token that wasn't Bitcoin or Ethereum. So I was like, whoa, there's other stuff out there. And they were going to, or at least I was told at the time, they were going to record the results of the election, the US elections happening at the time on chain. And I thought, if that is the case, if I buy this now, it might appreciate in value after the elections. So that was kind of like my first entry into crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And I became more and more interested in what what crypto's potential use cases might be because I knew of Bitcoin, I knew of Ethereum, but I didn't really understand what it's all for and what the advantages of blockchain technology can be. So I started reading more and more and more and more and fell down the rabbit hole and never got out. Here I am.
Awesome. And what year was this, if you don't mind sharing?
That was 2020. Yeah, that was towards the end of 2020.
Uh-huh. And then you graduated with that PhD in the same year as well, and then you decided to dive right into crypto, or like did you have kind of a little background or like experience working in that field before you dive into crypto?
And during my university years, I bought Bitcoin very cheaply, 2017, and I bought what every university student might need for increased creativity. So that was the actual
Okay.
first use case I found for crypto, but I didn't think much about it at the time. I and I did see its value go up and up and up along the years and down and down and down and up and up and up. But that was pretty much it as far as my background regarding crypto was.
Mm-hmm. So in 2020 you just went straight into crypto, or like, wait,
I
let me
invest,
think.
yeah, I invested into this token in Q. I bought
Mm-hmm.
it, and at first, so my I bought it with a part of my PhD stipend. I invested like 250 pounds at the time, and it became 1,000. So I thought, oh, that's great. I'm gonna buy more of these things. So I bought. It was my mom's birthday, so I thought, what do you get a woman who's got everything? You buy her Ethereum, of course. So I bought Ethereum at $500, and that became 2K. And I was like, wow, great. I'm gonna buy some Chainlink. I'm gonna buy some of this, some of that, and my small portfolio became very big. It kind of coincided with the bull market hitting, but I was still interested in what's it all for? What's the use case? I didn't really understand why these tokens were valued so much, why people were pumping money into this and not into, you know. immunology. Why my PhD supervisor was struggling to even secure $10,000 in funding to, cure autoimmune disease. And he had to write up so many grants justifying so many things. And here people were transacting, some wallets were transacting millions to buy these tokens. And then I started learning about this protocol called Wonderland, and
Mm-hmm.
people were there was like a very vibrant community around it, and I just didn't understand why. I was like, why does it matter? My grandma can live without it. So I kept reading. I was fudding at heart, but I couldn't be very vocal about that because people would immediately get angry at you if you question things.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I learned about Daniel Siesta, the
Mm-hmm.
man behind Wonderland, and I absolutely loved the way he talked. I was like, wow, he's got great showmanship. Um, so it was very entertaining to listen to his AMAs, and I tried to understand how the protocol worked. I started writing about it for myself to understand. But because all the information was on Twitter, I made a Twitter account, and I was like, okay, what should my Twitter name be? There was already Alice in Wonderland, so I thought I'm just gonna be the Red Queen, who's now not evil anymore because she's been staked. Haha, so I'm Staked Queen.
I see that.
And
That's how you got your name.
yeah, so now I'm stuck with it. So it is what it is.
Awesome. Right, and then like so you mentioned that you seen your professor back then having some troubles raising funds, and then in this crypto space right now, right? Like everyone seems to have unlimited funds. Like would you be doing this to give back to immunology in the financial sense sometime in the future, or maybe you're even doing it right now, right? Are you setting up a fund to kind of direct some money towards the research in that field?
I've actually had this conversation with someone working at Consensus, who also has a background in the medical field. And I do think that once the space is more mature, people might be open to the idea of decentralizing science, so to speak, where we can have a almost like a DAO, um, to direct funds towards research that makes sense to a community or another. Because right now it's all about, it should just be about what is the biggest problem impacting the most people and what is the approach that makes sense, is cost effective, and high probability of giving results. But what in fact happens is you get funding if you know someone who knows someone. Um, Obviously, the research that does get funded is more often than not solid. It's just that everyone is competing for such a small slice when it comes to medical sciences. So I would love it if we could allocate some of the resources on chain, if when actually the DeFi space captures more liquidity, and we could find a better way to fund research and also for these people to benefit from their own discoveries, not just publish a paper and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. And then I mean you mentioned, right, that you also moved on to Twitter to do writing, and I find your style of writing really interesting, right? It really takes a creative mind to come up with the things that you write, right? The way you write it, in fact. Like how did you get into that?
I've always enjoyed writing, so I think the style might come from two different filters slash experiences. I used to do stand-up comedy, and
Oh wow.
in stand-up comedy, yeah, it's okay if you're not funny, but there's two things you absolutely cannot do. You can't bore the audience, you can't be boring. And number two, you can't be confusing. The audience is going to tolerate anything except for those two things. You cannot bore, you cannot confuse. So I've gotten into the subconscious habit almost of filtering every sentence. Is this boring? Is this confusing? Is this boring? Is this confusing? So part of the quirkiness might stem from that. And the other filter, I actually have synesthesia, which is a condition where you experience a sense through another. It's like people say, oh, that you hear colors, you see sounds. That would be a quick way to explain it. But ever since I was little, I've been personifying absolutely anything. If I stare for 5 minutes at a pack of gum, every piece might look the same to the individual person. To me, they're all different. They have personalities. I'll like start imagining a story about them. And from this compulsion to personify absolutely everything around me without even realizing, you'll see that in my writing, there's a lot of dialogue. I personify projects. I actually, for a while, I did videos where I would pretend I'm a project and I'm talking about myself and I explain to a user how I work.
I think I saw that right when I was trying to do some research for the podcast and then going to your profile. You have that link pinned in your Twitter bio, right? I went to click on it and it brought me to that page where you were doing this little skit thing with different projects, right? Explaining how the things work. I think that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I did those for a while, but because I travel, it's a bit difficult right now to put together a video, edit it, and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
I find writing to be a lot more convenient.
Definitely, man. And then, so how did you go from um immunology to diving into crypto, and then now you're full time in crypto and writing threads, working with agencies and all.
At the beginning, I was doing both. I was learning about mostly about the DeFi space, and at the same time, I was doing research into improving cancer diagnostics on the
Wow.
side. But they were such different worlds that I felt like I was constantly having to sacrifice one for another. And I I thought, what's more important, cancer or shitcoins? And the answer was obvious. Yeah, but no, jokes aside, I actually thought that um, if I dedicate my time to understanding the space, then I can find better opportunities for scientists to
Mm-hmm.
fast track their road to cracking it,
Maybe
because
the
right now
financial
big
support.
yeah, because right now the big like funding is such a big limitation.
Mm-hmm.
During my PhD, I there was this experiment that took me months to perfect because we just couldn't afford to outsource parts of it, and I had to sit there like with a pipette and just like do very like intricate work that usually people hire a team for, but we couldn't even afford the lab technician. So it was there's a lot of motivation for me to um, unlock liquidity for the sciences eventually.
It's a noble cause that you chose to walk down this path instead. It's for the greater
It's what
good.
I say to sound. I'm just trying to sound cool on your podcast. Like I'm all about the pump and dump.
Nah, don't say that. All right. It's been really interesting to hear your story, right? I didn't know of this background and your so-called quote greater good thing. And I'm gonna be direct moving into the next question, right? I wanna hear about your investing framework, right? Like what are the things that you look at before you decide to click that buy button?
I'm actually very, very selective when it comes to investments.
That's good. Let's hear it.
There, there, I there's only a handful of coins I've invested into, not traded, invested, because I find that sometimes there's a fine line between diversifying assets and compulsive shopping. So I try to keep it to a handful. Um, I will invest into something um, so the one question that it has to answer for me is how many people are going to find this valuable in 5 years if I plan on holding it for 5 years, or in a year if I plan on holding it for 1 year. First is this, because no matter how good the tokenomics, no matter how good the tech, if people just don't think it's valuable, they're not going to give it value, they're not going to give it meaning. So this is my number one question. Since I'm from a scientific background, I'm a father at heart. I need to look for reasons why it can go to zero, and if I can't find compelling reasons, or if I find that it's more likely to stick around, then that's a that's convincing enough for me. So an example, a recent example would be got another pudgy penguin, because I believe that digital art is how we're going to progress in what we say fine art. Right now, it's very tricky to host an auction, find a buyer. Fine art is highly liquid, actually, and digital art is just fantastic as a store of value. And that was like what drew me in. But then as I looked at the community, I looked at where it's going, it just made sense. So that was one thing that I was like, yeah, I'm going to invest into this. There's more reasons that have to do with it, but the number one was, I do think that in 5 years people are going to find this valuable.
Right. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on what is in your thought process, right? What do you look at to think whether other people would think that this is valuable in, let's say, 1 year time or 5 years time?
But
What are
there's
some of the factors that affect that? Yeah.
depending on the context, there's various reasons. So whether we're talking about an NFT, whether we're talking about a token, whether we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about a blockchain, piece of technology, but ultimately, I can give you a few examples. One of them is buy high and sell higher. So has that asset already stood the test of time, and did people find use for it? So while we were in the bear market, what I was looking for is whether the protocol was cash flow positive in a bear market, and or if it had enough runway to sustain itself until market conditions improve.
Mm-hmm.
And does it solve an existing pain point? How many people are does it impact? Does it save people money, time, or ideally both? And is the is it straightforward to access? If it answers these questions, then I will be very interested.
I see. And this is more for tokens, right? Projects.
Uh, yes, this would be more for tokens projects. If we're talking about NFTs, then if we're talking about art, then I would have other questions on my mind.
I think that's interesting because I've never been good at NFTs, right? I mean, the listeners will know that I've been soft rugged by for my first purchase on chain, which is an NFT, right? Right. So never been good at NFTs. Is I've been literally throwing money and burning them away. So would be nice to learn and hear your thoughts on that. We could do a quick sharing.
Of course, of course. I've also been burned by NFTs, but only when I tried trading them, not investing into them. So I would see that an NFT collection has a lot of volume. It seems like there's a lot going on. And the floor price would keep going up and up and up. And the moment I buy them, it's like the market knows and says, okay, now we stop. You just bought the top. Congratulations. Um, so if I was looking to flip, then that's when I would get burned. However, um, if I I only bought I got the Paiji penguins, I got Dokyo, um, which is a collection on Avalanche. I believe in the I believe that the Avalanche ecosystem is gonna experience quite the boom, and every chain needs their own Azuki, their own Star NFT. And I looked at this collection and I thought, wow, this has a lot of potential. I use myself I use my own internal compass to decide, is this art? Is this something that could potentially appeal to a mass of people? And that collection in particular stood out to me. Of course, this is highly subjective, but I can just look at it for a long time and not get bored, which is how I look at art. And that's the number one um, factor for me when I look at things from an art perspective. So
I think
I
you,
wouldn't I would
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I wouldn't call myself an NFT expert by any means. I would be highly, highly selective when it comes to NFT collections, because I think they also proved it that most people just lost money, and it was like what's like less than 1% of wallets made a profit overall by trading NFTs. So I would only go into something if there was really high conviction, and I can only say that for maybe one, two collections.
Yeah, I think that statement is true because I am most people. I think you mentioned really great stuff there, and one particular sentence caught my attention. You mentioned that you think that the AVAX ecosystem has potential. I would like to hear you elaborate on that, right? Is it more on the when you talk about that, is it more on the DeFi side or the NFT side, or just in general as a chain? More activity, more volume. Let's hear it from you.
In general, as a chain, it's because of its infrastructure. Like with any chain, you never know which application is really going to put it on the map. But when it comes to the Avalanche ecosystem, there's several that right now have potential. I Many people don't know this. I didn't know this, but the Avalanche ecosystem was built for a specific purpose, and that was to bring around 700 trillion real world assets on chain. And it was built to be able to sustain that. Just how you have blockchains that are specifically built for gaming, Avalanche was built for this. It just so happens that it can also sustain gaming platforms thanks to the fact that it has subnets. And these are kind of like customizable blockchains. So a developer can deploy any solution that fits their needs using Avalanche, and they can rely on almost near instant finality, low transaction fees, good security, and also a community that's been there, is there. Uh, they're very good at managing the resources, and I'm seeing some activity that's making me more and more interested in the entire ecosystem, and I it is likely that one, two more of them is going to put it properly on the map.
I see, I see. Right, that's interesting, man. I have I have heard like quite a few people are talking about Avalanche ecosystem as well, but personally I have not looked into it, but I think it's something worth exploring given that multiple people like yourself are mentioning it, right?
Yeah, I personally didn't know a lot about it, and then last month I started researching more and more. It just so happened that today I did a piece about it, uh, about the narrative of Avalanche becoming the forex chain. They have this protocol, Kanza Finance, that just launched Baki, which is a platform for African stablecoins. Many people don't know, but right now, if it's very hard to facilitate transactions between the 54 different African countries. And if you do want to make those foreign exchanges, sometimes you can incur slippage as high as 40%. And
Wow.
especially when you make small transactions, it's ridiculous. So they are doing a great job at slowly enabling global transactions where, people just don't get screwed over, as to put it very eloquently.
Sorry, what was the protocol name again? What finance?
Canza. Canza.
Oh, CANZA. All right. We'll take a look into that. All right, and then I think since you're talking always about liquidity, right? And you mentioned that a few times at the start. What do you think is missing in crypto for this mass adoption, or like for liquidity to come in, or maybe stay in here, right? Let's hear your thoughts on that.
So I think that liquidity will keep coming into crypto and going out until there is a compelling reason for it to stick around. If we look at the every single cycle, we can see that some protocols still maintained some liquidity. There was some stickiness to them. Um, the project never went to zero, and it came back and it bounced, and um, I think that money will come in, come out, come in, come out, and more will start sticking around as more things are built that have real use case. Are we there yet where money is just gonna come in and stay? No, and it's never gonna be the case. There's always going to be movement. But I think we're going the right direction. Mass adoption, I think Vitalik said that it's going to be very hard to go from that 10% to 70% or even below. And I don't think the future is as grim. I think that we are seeing a shift in power between people who are for traditional finance and people who start appreciating what Web3, what DeFi can do for the financial landscape. So I don't know if what is missing is the right question, because right now in my opinion at least, we are very much on the right track. It's just a matter of optimizing, finding more secure solutions, making people feel comfortable using the applications, making them intuitive, and also giving crypto a slightly better reputation, because a lot of people just know about the distinct scams or dark web. So I do think we're on the right track, because more and more people are writing about it, educating other people. So I'm personally very optimistic.
Mhm. I mean, maybe to tweak the question a little bit then, what do you see, right, that can get liquidity to the money to stay in the ecosystem in DeFi or in crypto?
So one is good good tokenomics is a factor, um, a way to make platforms stickier in that sense. Real, like actual use case, pretty much. If somebody realizes how much time and money they save using stablecoin swaps rather than going to your local foreign exchange, then that will definitely increase
Totally.
stickiness. So awareness coupled with low fees, I think that would be the way. In the case of, but this is like case by case. So perp Texas, for example, have some time to go. Like they would need to find a way to lower fees as much as possible, to the point that you wouldn't go through a broker that requires you to KYC, that you know, where you have I don't know how much spread. So honestly, it all boils down to, does it save people time and money? And if yes, the only thing is make people aware that is the case, and that is the very overly simplified recipe of making liquidity stay.
So awesome. Love to hear the thoughts, man. And then my next question would then be, is there anything that excites you right now within crypto, within DeFi specifically?
Yes, um, it would be cruel to pick only one thing, but I will try. I guess how capital efficient you can be. It's a combination of how liquid you can make an asset, and how and composability. So this would be the a soup that I'm I'm stirring right now, trying to pick one ingredient out that stands out. But yeah, capital efficiency, because right now, okay, I have a house, and if I want to take a loan against it, I have to do so much paperwork. I have to be a specific age. I need to show proof of employment. There's so many like boxes I have to tick. Then I have to go through a third party, fourth party, fifth party. I have to pay them to say, okay, you may proceed. And then I take the loan, and then there's like a lot of it's complicated. And the house itself is a highly illiquid asset, because I can say, okay, the value is, let's say, 100K. If I need that 100K tomorrow, tough luck. I'm not gonna just like flip it.
Mm-hmm.
But with DeFi, you can deposit USDC as collateral. You can take a loan against, so even better, you can take a loan against an asset like Ethereum And then if you're in a bull market, the loan repays itself. Whoa, that's brilliant. And if you go through Thorchain, you have zero interest, no liquidations, everything's great. So it's opportunities like these that just really excite me and blow my mind, to be honest, because I I didn't know that was possible. And some people said, you know what, we're gonna do stuff with our heads and come up with these solutions, and now it's possible. Hey, so that's great.
I mean, that's definitely great, right? To save time, right? Have more liquidity. All right then, and then I'm not sure how much of a trader you are or how much of a macro person you are, but I would like to hear your thoughts on the markets for the next 6 months, or like moving into 2024. Where do you see us going, up or down, sideways?
I am learning how to trade forex. I say I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
because I would not call myself a trader probably ever. Out of respect for people who've been doing this for many, 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 many years. Um, but from my, let's say, limited understanding, I would say that um, so I the reason why I'm reluctant to talk about this is because I was so sure that the dollar is like DXY is going to go down, 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 down throughout this year, and it's been going up, 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 up. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to suspend judgment on that and not take a 6 month outlook, but just look 1 month at a time, 1 month at a time. And um, for the crypto markets, for Bitcoin and Ethereum, I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin stagnates and Ethereum sees a huge bump in 2024, or at least relatively overcomes ah words.
Is there any reason why
So
you think that way?
um I wish I had a chart in front of me to show you the imaginary lines that people put on charts and say yes, the price is gonna bounce, the price is gonna do this or that. um but as to why is because of maybe belief, maybe insider information, maybe a crystal globe that tells me that people with a lot of money are more interested in Ethereum than Bitcoin, and we might perhaps, who knows, see a lot of liquidity coming in that direction.
I'm excited to see how it plays out, right? And I'll be happy if that comes true because I do not hold any Bitcoin. So it'll be a good thing for myself.
Yeah, neither do I. I never invested into Bitcoin because of that original question I was pursuing, which was, what does it do? Where does it matter? But I was compelled by Ethereum because there's actually things built on there that people think are valuable. So they will, there is incentive for people with money to keep it alive, as opposed to Bitcoin, where I personally didn't find compelling reasons to become interested in it. Perhaps this is my ignorance, but it did not seem to me that people are interested in building there, that there's a genuine, like, excited community. But perhaps you might have a different opinion.
But I think they're selling you the thought of digital gold, man. It's obvious. Bitcoin equals digital gold. Yeah, but I think I agree on the points where you said they're not building anything on Bitcoin because it's not meant to be that way, right? They're not supposed to build much on top of Bitcoin network. Um, but then if you because I still hold the thought that Bitcoin price will go up, right? I'm not saying that it's not gonna go up. It will go up. But I think for ourselves, right, people like us, we're more interested in Ethereum because of what it can do. Like there's so much more functionalities. Um, on Bitcoin side of things, price will go up because the supply will be decreasing while the demand will be increasing, right? Where we have institutional flows in and the next retail wave comes in. People who are not in the crypto yet, they will like Bitcoin will be the first thing that they kind of hear about, right? Everyone heard about Bitcoin, even though like even my parents or grandparents might have heard of Bitcoin, right? But they might not be um in the crypto space or holding any crypto right now, but definitely they heard of it. So it's like the closest thing or the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah.
For sure, I agree with that. I do think that at least for the near future, people will look at Bitcoin and think digital gold value, and certainly, yeah, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it value keeps going up, and that is everyone's point of entry, let's say. At the same time, looking at a 20-30 year perspective, I'd feel more comfortable with something like Ethereum, because right now if you come up to me and you give me 5 lingots of gold, I don't know what to do with them. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I give them to? I can't even get them through the airport. That's tricky.
Keep them under the pillow.
Yeah, so I don't know if digital gold will be seen similarly or not in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. Like time will tell. And I think I've pretty much covered everything I want to cover for the crypto side of things. Right now, let's kind of get to know a bit more about you. And the first stuff would be, could you bring us through a day in the life of State Queen? Do you travel every other week moving countries, or like how does your typical day go? Bring us through it, man.
That depends. So right now I'm in Thailand, and I'm settled here for a couple of months, and I have quite a work routine, let's say, where I wake up, I take a cold shower, have my coffee, do a little bit of writing, go to the gym, come back, do some more do some more writing. If it's a Thursday, I'm looking at the forex markets to see if I can get a nice long or short on euro dollar. And then I unwind with my favorite anime series at a time. That would be like a typical I'm here to build stuff kind of routine and work mode. When that doesn't happen, I'm traveling, I'm exploring the area, finding out what the nicest local food is, what's there to see. So it's a combination of typical day of predictable routine, and I have no idea where the day is going to take me.
So fixed work days and then exploring the country in the rest of the time.
Basically, or it can be that I wake up and the day takes me by surprise. That can also be a thing.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you would like to watch anime in your free time. Like, what are you watching right, let's say right now?
Right now, I'm watching uh what's it called? There's this anime with a teacher that they need to assassinate their teacher, and I forgot the name. I don't know if that rings a bell, but I will tell
Is
you what I.
is the teacher like a yellow alien
Yes, 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 that's the one.
assassination classroom? I think it's
Yes,
quite a few years ago, right?
yes. Yes, that is what I'm watching, but I'll tell you what I
Uh-huh.
watched just before that, and I think everyone should watch if they want to avoid poverty. It's a brilliant anime. Like, watch this anime if you want to be rich, strong, deadlift 100 kilos and bite all the dogs in the neighborhood. It's called Blue Lock, and every single person on the planet should watch this anime. It's just filled with good wisdom quotes. It's really gripping. It's just brilliant. Whether you like anime or not. I'm not gonna shill you Pudgies, I'm not gonna shill you Rune, I'm not gonna shill you any crypto investment. Watch Blue Lock. This is financial advice. Watch Blue Lock.
I've never seen someone shield Blue Lock that hard. I haven't
Oh
watched it, right?
yes.
Yeah, but I know what is.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
this is how you're gonna become like a full-time crypto millionaire. You watch Blue Lock, that's gonna make the change. That is the missing piece.
All right, guys, you heard her. Go watch Blue Lock then. Yep, and then my next question to you would then be, what is your greatest takeaway from being in crypto?
So we kind of touched on that in the sense that crypto allows you to make your assets liquid.
Mm-hmm.
That we can have a financial system where you can access capital immediately. That would be my biggest takeaway, that you can take a loan against an asset immediately and potentially the way we've been talking about real world assets on chain, you can make virtually anything out there that people deem as valuable highly liquid, and this is enabled by blockchain, and you can do it in a permissionless manner. You don't need a third party, and all of these features would be, I guess, my biggest takeaway from crypto, because crypto uniquely, at least right now, enables us to do these things.
Liquidity is king to you, or queen in that sense.
Yes, touche.
Awesome. And then I would like to hear one piece of advice that you would like to give for your younger self.
Don't spend all of that Bitcoin in university. Keep some of it. It was $100. Keep it. Um, no, one advice would actually be to get financially educated earlier on. I I was actually I wasn't this interested in the financial landscape until starting to learn about the Web3 space and decentralized finance. And one piece of advice I would give to my even 15-year-old self is get educated about finance early on. Get educated about marketing, learn about these things from and I would give myself a list of resources, because not all resources can inspire you to further pursue something. So
Awesome.
that would be my advice
I
to
think
my
that's
younger
some great
self.
advice right there. All right, and thank you so much, State Queen. To end this off, right, I would like to pose to you the final question where could you give me three names as guest nominations to come on the podcast in future?
I will mention my current three favorite girls then,
Go
and
ahead.
these are Cryptolyn. I love her sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Would love to hear from her. Then there are two wonderful girls that I discovered at the same time, and they are Mara Blossom and I might be butchering her name because I've only read it. I didn't hear it out loud. Sarah Idosa. They are both collaborating on a project called Women in DeFi, and they're trying to. They started with African countries, and they plan to onboard um, women in the DeFi space, and they're actually brilliant storytellers as well. So would like to nominate them.
Awesome. I think that's great to bring on more female speakers. I think the audience would really enjoy that as well. All right. Thank you, State Queen, for coming on and sharing all your insights and thoughts. Right. I really appreciate you taking the time. Um, for those who are interested, right, please do check her Twitter out. I'll link it down below. She does really, really interesting manners of writing their threads and getting information across. So do check her out, and thank you for tuning into this episode. We will see you in the next episode. That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Before you go, do remember to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you never miss a thing. Comment down below what you liked about this episode, who you would like me to interview next, or any topics that you want to learn more about. Until next time, this is Moose moving out.